name's Jim Fearon. I'm Vice President for Hays, overseeing our operations in Western Canada. I've worked for Hays for nearly 18 years, the last 5 of which I've spent here in Canada, based out of Calgary. I've spent the vast majority of my career recruiting in technical disciplines, including construction and property, mining and oil and gas, and I've been lucky enough to work for Hays in a number of different places around the world, starting in England before moving to Australia and then coming to Canada in 2011. I'm joined today by VRCA President Fiona Famulak, who will be available to answer your questions at the end of the survey. Welcome, Fiona.
Good morning, Jim, and welcome, everyone. I have a couple of minutes. I just want to say a couple of thank yous, if that's okay, Jim.
Absolutely.
Awesome. First of all, thank you, of course, to Hays. We're delighted that VRCA can partner again with Hays to produce what is now the 9th salary guide. So this product definitely has a long history with a lot of traction in the marketplace. So, so thank you to Jim and his team. This is an important piece of market intelligence, I think, because it allows the members of VRCA to stay ahead of market trends, to attract and retain the right and the best people. Everyone on the line today understands that we're no longer looking at a skills shortage, we're living it every day. And it's forecast to grow between now and 2024 through to roughly 15,000 people. So it's really important that we plan now, that we find the right people now, and that we have everyone tune in to how to retain them in the best possible way. So I think this product certainly helps in that regard. Second thank you that I want to make is to everyone who participated in the survey. I understand, and our team at VRCA understands, that everyone is busy, and we appreciate the time that you've taken to contribute to a product that not only helps you, but also helps the broader industry to move forward. So thank you for that, and I'll hand back to Jim. Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Fiona. Some great points there, and hopefully I'm going to talk to a number of those points as I go. I'll just add now as well that at the end we'll be joined by Russ Carnley, who runs our construction and property business in our Vancouver office. He's worked for Hays for more than 12 years now and has been working in the Vancouver, or recruiting in the Vancouver construction space since 2004. So I would say he is very much our aficionado on recruiting in Vancouver construction and property. So Russ will be with us to answer your questions at the end too. Okay, so just a little bit about the survey before we start, and to go back over some of the things that Fiona just said. So as most of you know, we produce the guide every year in conjunction with the VRCA. Really it provides insights into comp and benefits packages, trends in recruitment and retention, and gives a good general sort of market overview. This is the 9th year that we've produced the survey in partnership. We're really proud of what it's become and the engagement that it gets from the British Columbian construction industry. This year we had 120 employers participate in the survey, covering 4 industry sectors and across 5 regions of BC. So we think it's a really good cross-section to draw useful data from. Okay, so let's start with an overview of the headlines from the overall guide. So overall, Vancouver employers are very optimistic about the economy, despite some talk of the impact the oil and gas market might have. Despite the positive outlook for the economy, we're seeing salaries remain steady, with only modest increases in line with inflation. Employers cite a general skills shortage and a dearth of relevant experience as the biggest challenge to recruitment. And then lastly, employers said being able to offer career progression is the top retention challenge, but we think they're missing some opportunities here. Let's take a quick look at how employers are viewing the economic outlook. So overall, 2015 was a very good year, with nearly 2/3 of employers saying the economy positively affected their business, whilst only 25% said it had a negative impact on them. There are no real surprises with this. Building permits approvals reached an 8-year high in 2015, and the industry now accounts for more than 8% of the province's GDP. The growth has largely been led by high levels of public and private investment in not only major commercial, institutional and residential development, but also through a wide variety of major projects ranging from LNG plants and associated pipelines transportation and utilities to ongoing infrastructure maintenance. So how do we feel about the year ahead? Well, the good news is that there's almost an identical forecast. In fact, it's even a little bit more positive than what we saw in 2015. And why are we so positive? Well, there's no real expectation that the private and public investment into ICI sectors is going to abate. In fact, in Q3 of 2015 alone, there were 31 new major projects proposed, valued at a little over $1.1 billion, and 20 major projects commenced, construction valuing more than $10 billion. And then we have more than $1 billion promised to BC in terms of stimulus spending from Prime Minister Trudeau's first budget the other week. So I guess there's plenty to be positive about, especially when you're looking at it from a seat in Calgary, to be honest. So what impact is all this economic positivity having on salary levels? Well, I think this chart paints a very clear picture. The best news is that 0% of employers are expecting to make any kind of salary reduction this year, with a pretty even 50-50 split saying that they're either going to keep salaries the same or offer an increase. Personally, I was quite surprised with this. I thought that a second strong year could start to put more significant upwards pressure on salaries, and I think it'll be interesting to see how or whether this changes next year if 2016 pans out as everyone's expecting. Equally as interesting is that only about a quarter of employers this salary as a major hurdle to successful recruitment. Again, I thought we might see this pushing up this year. So to add an extra layer of context to these numbers, Hays does a salary guide nationwide every year, and this year we saw half of construction companies across Canada say they're expecting to increase salaries by up to 3% in 2016. So the figures for BC are on par with this, although I would add that those national figures obviously include results from Alberta and Saskatchewan, where there are very different market conditions indeed. Let's take a quick look at how the salary increases are expected to vary across construction sectors. You can see the picture is pretty uniform, although more M&E contractors are expecting to have to offer salary increases, while sub-trades are feeling that pressure the least. Okay, let's take a change of direction here and have a look at what's creating the biggest recruitment and retention headaches for the industry in BC. Now, in fairness, you'd probably have to look back quite a number of years to find a time where there wasn't an overall perceived skill shortage in the Vancouver or British Columbian construction market. Certainly, in my time in Canada, we haven't seen one, so there's no surprise to see that trend repeating itself this year. Two-thirds of employers say there's a skills shortage that's having an impact on the industry. And on top of that, hiring intentions are very positive, with almost three-quarters of companies planning to hire in 2016. So it's probably a fair assumption to make that there's going to be increased pressure on that skills shortage or an exacerbation of its impact. Now, there may be some relief in the short term as skills become more readily available across Alberta and Saskatchewan as the market goes in the opposite direction, but Vancouver is quite a difficult place to move people to due to the higher cost of living. So how fruitful that might prove as a recruitment strategy, we'll have to see, and I'd definitely be interested to hear people's experiences on that topic as the year progresses. We also wanted to know what candidates employers were struggling to find, and you can see here that 42% said they struggled to find superintendents, 21% said estimators, which actually I thought was a little bit low, or surprisingly low, I should say, and project managers came in third with 14% of employers saying they find it hard to recruit them. Now, in terms of order, this is exactly the same as last year. However, we're seeing nearly a third more companies reporting that they find supers and estimators hard to find this year than last year, which is a decent demonstration of the skills shortage starting to have a bigger impact. Okay, let's shift from recruitment to retention. As with last year's survey, employers believe that the biggest retention issue they face is being able to offer career progression, and 45% of respondents said this. And that's a pretty big number, especially when you compare it to the second highest, which is salary at 21%. Now, I'd be honest and take a bit of a view that there's probably a degree of subjectivity involved in these statistics, because I think there'll be a small percentage of employees that leave a job and would prefer to say it's because of something like career advancement than money, because it maybe makes them feel better about themselves. So the gap may not be as big as employers report, although there's also some very strong evidence to say it could well be very accurate. And that evidence is that 52% of companies so they have no succession plan in place at all. Now, the good news is that this actually compares pretty favourably to companies Canada-wide. We know that around only a third of organisations have a succession plan across the country, whether they're in construction or not. But interestingly, despite knowing that a lack of succession plan is a problem, 72% of those without one say they have no plans to implement one in 2016. So the basic conclusion here is that it's pretty important to invest some time in succession planning for your business if you haven't already done so. I think there's another important thing for employers to consider here, and especially those with a succession plan in place, and that's that if your employees don't know about the career paths open to them, having a succession plan isn't going to stop them seeking alternative opportunities for that reason. So it's just as important to have a structured communication plan in place to get people engaged with your succession plan and to understand what their opportunities are within your organisation. Now we're going to spend a few minutes looking more closely at the skills shortage, what the current issues are, and how you can help address it within your company. So as a starting point, we asked about the level of skills shortage in 2015, and the green is where people say there's no skills shortage, dark blue is moderate, and light blue is an extreme shortage. So clearly it was apparent in every sector of the industry. How does this compare to this year's results? Well, it's basically more of the same, a few small changes, with M&E and general construction looking likely to experience most pressure, but in general it's an issue that's not going away and is prevalent throughout the industry. As we already talked about, the most difficult role to recruit for is superintendents, and the second is estimators, and more than 2/3 of BC construction firms intend to hire superintendents in 2016. So 42% of construction employers say it's the hardest role to recruit for, and 69% are planning to hire superintendents this year. There are going to be some pronounced recruitment challenges in 2016, I'd say. Excuse me. Now, we asked what are the main recruitment challenges companies are facing, and not surprisingly, the quality of available candidates came out as the major issue, reflecting the skills shortage that we've just been talking about. And salary levels come in at number 2 with 28%. Now, I'd like to quickly talk about company reputation, which you can see propping up the bottom of the chart there at 2%. And company reputation could be defined in any number of ways, and I would suggest that there'd be relatively few people that would be prepared to admit that they are having an issue recruiting people because they have a bad reputation. Most people would like to think that they have a good reputation. I'd ask, is the question that do you have a reputation at all, or to put another way, do your target candidates even know that you exist above and beyond anyone else? And in a number of other industry and nationwide surveys that we recently conducted, we discovered that 80% of employers list company reputation as their major recruitment concern going into 2016, and that candidates now see company reputation as their number 1 consideration when evaluating a new career opportunity. So why such a difference in the BC construction market? And I don't necessarily have that answer, but could it be that your lack of company reputation means that few high-quality candidates respond to your recruitment efforts, or that your efforts are simply invisible to them, or they don't stand out from the crowd? I think that while it might be low on your priority list, your company reputation can be the differentiator in the market, and particularly if you have a great succession plan and training to tell them about. So it's worth talking about what candidates see when they, it's worth thinking about what candidates see when they look at your company and where they can look for it, and how you can make sure that you're an employer of choice in your sector and region. We produced a report on this topic called Where People Are, and you're welcome to request a copy after the presentation. Let's now talk a little bit more about what quality means, because I think that can have mean different things in different situations and to different people. So we wanted to have an answer to whether companies are in a position to train and develop their own talent. And I've cheated somewhat for this slide. I pulled this information from our DNA of a VP of Construction report, which we produced last year. We mapped the career paths of about 100 Canadian construction VPs, looking at how they progressed through their careers and the skills and experiences they accumulated along the way. And I'd strongly recommend it as both a career planning tool for you to use with your top talent, and a way to prioritise your hiring and training programs to prepare your team for leadership. What we have here is a summary of the different skills the VPs developed as they progressed through their careers, and I'd loosely describe it as moving from technical to tactical, and then from tactical to strategic. So early on, it's about technical knowledge and that willingness to learn, that core of being good at your job, of knowing the technical side, but beyond that, can you get broad experience? Do you listen? Are you eager to try new things? And then once you get to the mid-level, you need to be able to see how your role fits into the organisation, develop commercial and business understanding, people management, and problem-solving skills. It's about becoming far more autonomous in your role and starting to direct rather than be directed, if that makes sense. At senior levels, we see that shift again to really being a strategic leader, being able to develop business, build relationships with clients, and move the organisation forwards. And then finally, we know that at every level, communication skills and passion are key differentiators, and these are the traits that set apart a great construction professional from a good one. Now, if we know these things, then I don't think it would be that hard for a company that offers training and professional development programs to their staff to tailor those programs to meet the changing needs of their teams as they progress through their careers, and more importantly, possibly, to meet the needs of the company, although it does take time to put them together. Now, the good news is that almost every employer told us that they offer training programs as a benefit, whilst a third provide financial support. And I think the key question to ask is whether the training offered and the money being spent is being focused on the needs of the business, or is it being offered in a less structured and more ad hoc manner. Now, one concern that's been raised with me in the past is from employers who are hesitant to invest in extensive training because they're worried about employees leaving and taking the taught knowledge with them. I'd counter that by saying, firstly, if you're providing training and career progression, then it should naturally reduce the number of leavers you have for those reasons. And then secondly, if you can get a reputation for offering great training and development and that people actually do progress with your organisation, you can use it as a very, very effective candidate attraction tool indeed. So I really don't see the downside of investing the time and the effort into this. In fact, I think it's an absolute priority for every company. Okay, so what are you doing to tackle the your ongoing recruitment needs? Well, the number one approach being used here is for referrals from staff. This is a very effective form of recruitment. Your top employees are likely to have a network of peers that you can connect with, and given their reputation is on the line, when they make the referral, you normally get a pretty good quality candidate. It also means that you're often tapping into a network of passive candidates, so these aren't necessarily the people who are scrolling through lots of job ads and applying to plenty of jobs. So you're not really competing for the small percentage of active candidates that are in the market, and in that way it's a very good start. But I don't really think it's enough. For one thing, it's very ad hoc, so all of a sudden you need a superintendent, so you ask your current employees to see if any of their peers might be looking for work. They send a few emails, maybe share a few things on social media, but in that way it's very reactive, and you probably don't start the process until you have a job to fill. It's also a very limited network, so you only have so many employees and they only have so many connections, so you can run out of people to talk to and places to explore fairly fast. So what's the answer? Well, unfortunately, there isn't an easy one, but you need to start building and nurturing a network of candidates by connecting with them across numerous channels, including things like social media. And if you can start engaging with them today, when you need to hire somebody in 3 or 6 or 12 months' time, you already have a warm network of people to talk to. As I said, it's much easier said than done, but it's the way the world's moving. There isn't much that people don't do without the use of their smartphone or tablet these days. Is your website even mobile friendly? And you've got to start thinking about how you proactively go about connecting with people, getting your brand out there, building your reputation, and making sure that when people start looking for a job, you're one of the companies they come to talk to. Okay, let's finish off with a brief look at benefits. And in a tight talent market where we're seeing salaries remain fairly flat, being competitive in the benefits space could make a big difference to you. So let's look at the top benefits by sector. Now, these tell a fairly similar story, I'd say. Almost everyone is offering extended health benefits and training and certification. So if you're not offering those, then it might be time to review your benefits packages. Company cars, parking and association memberships are fairly common across the different companies. One that I always like to see is the individual performance bonus. I think this is a great way to align performance and pay. We know for a fact that people are prepared to take a dip in base salary if there's the chance to earn some decent upside through a good performance bonus. And what this means is you can keep your payroll costs in line with company performance whilst being able to reward the people that deliver the goods with additional remuneration at the end of the financial year. So what can you do to differentiate yourself from your competitors? Well, 59% of respondents told us they're happy with their benefits package, which is pretty good, but it still means there's a fairly significant group that isn't satisfied, so 40%. One of the things that we didn't see breaking into the top 5 of those lists we talked about on the other slide was vacation, which is a pity because we consistently see it close to the top of the list of the most wanted benefits when we do surveys across the country. And if I was honest, over my 18 years in the recruitment industry, I've rarely seen someone take a job offering less vacation, and probably almost never actually. About a quarter of employees are offering new employees 3 weeks vacation, so this is probably one of the best changes you can make to your benefits package to attract new employees. I'd also suggest being flexible on this, so if someone you want to hire already gets 3 weeks vacation, then offering them the same is simply a way to keep their interest. And promisingly more than 90% of employers increase vacation with tenure. So as a retention tool, this is another differentiator, especially if you can go above 3 weeks to 4, which about half the employers interviewed said they would do for those with tenure with more than 7 years. So if your employee is 1 year away from getting 4 weeks of vacation, it makes it much harder for them to leave, especially if your competitors are only offering them 2 or 3 weeks vacation to move there. Okay, so that's everything we wanted to communicate today. I'll leave you with a few key findings and recommendations and then finish off with a few questions if we have any. So the key findings. Market confidence is still high despite some uncertainty, especially around the impact the oil and gas sector is going to have. Career progression is more important than salary when it comes to retention, and just a quarter of employers are concerned about salary levels. Employers tell us they struggle to find quality candidates with the right combination of skills, experience and personal traits, and proactive employers are using training and development to grow their own leaders and attract and retain top talent. And then our recommendations, so what potential actions could you take away from this? Well, starting with employers, career progression is crucial and you need to prioritise developing and promoting a company succession plan to attract and retain ambitious professionals. Your network is key to solving your recruitment challenges. Be proactive and build a talent pipeline today, even if you're not recruiting. And then address your internal skills gap with strategic training and development, then leverage that program externally to attract more ambitious candidates. And for job seekers who want to stand out to employers, prove you're the quality candidate that construction leaders are looking for, and demonstrating strong soft skills during interviews is an absolute must if you want to stand out from your competition. And accelerate your career by proactively seeking training opportunities. If you're passive about your career progression, everyone else will be too. Okay, that's the end of the key messages we wanted to share today. Thank you very much for dialing in and listening. I really appreciate it, and I hope you found it useful. We now have a couple of minutes to spare to answer any questions that you have. So if you have a question, please type it into the chat box and we'll do our best to answer it. As I said before, we've got Fiona Famulak on the phone to answer any questions that you have. So if you want to know anything specifically about the association, then she'll be able to help you out, and I have Russ Carnley in our Vancouver office also standing by. As we're waiting for questions, to request a copy of the full report, please go to hays.ca/VRCASalaryGuide, and we'll also have a recording of this webinar available on our YouTube channel later today. So let's see if we have any questions. Okay, we've got one question coming in here, which I'm going to throw to Mr. Carnley to answer. How does the BC construction market differ from other provinces? or maybe a way to phrase that, what would be the key differentiators from the BC construction market?
Hello, Jim. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep, excellent. So at the present time, the Vancouver market is extremely busy. So I'd say the BC construction market compares quite favourably compared to other major markets in Canada. There are other places in the country that are also very busy, though. Winnipeg continues to be an extremely strong market. Ottawa continues to be very busy. Other markets that over the last few years had been extremely busy, i.e. Calgary, Edmonton in particular, have slowed quite considerably. Even the Toronto market, we've seen a bit of a dip there, although it's essentially gone from what you'd class as kind of an overheated market to more normal market conditions. So I'd say compared to the other major cities in Canada, Vancouver is probably one of the best ones at the moment. As you mentioned before, though, it does still present a few challenges in terms of getting people to move here because of the high housing costs, but I'd certainly say inquiries from construction professionals about opportunities here, we're certainly seeing many, many more, and we are seeing quite considerable movement of some quality candidates relocating from Alberta. So there was a bit of a lag time before that we saw those good candidates relocating here, but now we are starting to get some good people making the move, as I guess they were waiting to see what happened with the oil price, and as that's continued to remain somewhat depressed, then we are getting some quality moving from Calgary now.
Okay, that's encouraging news. Anything that you'd like to add to that, Fiona, at all?
I just want to build on Russell's comments, if I may, Jim, and referencing another partner's literature just from a few weeks ago. Buildforce Canada has issued its 10-year forecast, the 2016 to 25 construction and maintenance forward forecast, and it very clearly says that British Columbia's construction industry is in a growth phase and will be for a number of years, because of the new infrastructure projects that are coming on stream, as well as energy development, and in addition to the ongoing infrastructure construction projects. So BC, I think, is a crown jewel, or is going to continue to be a crown jewel in Canada's construction marketplace for a number of years. And that means that we're likely to have more demand for construction than supply of workers, so therefore it's going to make the labour market very, very competitive.
Okay, very good points. Thank you. And so we've got another question. How can employers support their employees in professional development? Russ, have you got anything you'd like to say about that?
Essentially, I'd kind of reiterate what you've mentioned somewhat. What I generally see is a lot of candidates, well, a lot of employers offer their employees training. I think there's a large focus on that training being focused towards the technical, i.e. can you do your job? Are you up to speed with what health and safety requirements we have on site? Are you up to speed with very technical sort of training that you need just to do your job on a day-to-day basis? I don't see many employers out there that are really identifying their top performers or the people that they see as having management potential for the future and exposing them to training other than what they need to do their job on a day-to-day basis. So are they getting training on business management more generally? Are they getting training on business development and sales skills that they would need as their career progresses? Are they getting training on training more junior staff on how to mentor people, etc.? So I don't really see that, and perhaps some employers are doing that, but I'd say it's a relatively small percentage. So I think probably a shift from the focus on the core technical training to more generic management skills would be a real differentiator.
Okay, yeah, so I'd say, I'd add to that. I think the key around your training programs is actually being relevant to take people to the next level of their careers. So if you have somebody that's at a mid-level like what are the things they're going to need to progress into a senior management or executive level role and start developing those key areas. And it's also to tailor the training to the individual. So if you do annual or biannual career reviews with your staff, do you effectively identify what each individual's key weaknesses or areas for improvement are, and then tailor a training plan to that person to help them alleviate those weaknesses and to generally enhance the strength and the quality of your workforce? I think that's a very critical thing. Got another question come through. We offer training, but people don't take it. How can I get more staff to take part in the programs? Which is quite a good question. So on one hand, people are saying they leave because the career development opportunities aren't there or the training's not there, and on the other hand, they have it and yet they don't want to take it. That's a very good question. Now, I'd jump in and answer that to a degree myself. I think I would personally say that your business needs your staff to develop skills as they progress through the organisation, whether they want to take that learning or not. And at Hays, we have a training program, and it's a compulsory training program. Every individual gets booked onto training courses they're expected to attend, and as a result, they develop the skills they need to develop as they progress through their careers. And I'd say if your company has recognised a suite of skills that you need your staff to develop as they go through their career, then make them do it, make it essential. Let them book time out of their schedules, their day, their week, their month, whatever it is, and to go and attend those training programs and make it unoptional. I think coming back to Russ's point about other training programs we offer to do with certifications and health and safety and that kind of thing, and do you want to go and get this qualification or the certificate, then I guess that's down to the individual, but you need your staff to develop the skills that you need them to have to progress your organisation, and I think you should make that unoptional and put a schedule together for each person as they progress. Absolutely.
And I agree with everything that you've said, and I think I can think of a number of members at VRCA. I would encourage the folks on the line, if you're not already, to become a champion of continuing education. Set the expectation from the top, and as you say, make continuing education, whether it's technical or whether it's general business management skills, make it compulsory. Work actively with your employees, identify the training needs that they think they need, that you think they need as their leader and as their mentor. Support their participation in training courses. I would also encourage, where it's appropriate, encourage them to participate in associations like VRCA, where there's committees to contribute towards, there's task forces, there's ultimately the board of directors, because that is all requiring the individuals to show strategic thinking, vision, leadership skills. It's great professional development. It's perhaps not the typical type of professional development, but nevertheless, a number of our members direct their senior employees towards that type of experience because they think it's very valuable. So I think I agree with you completely. I think it comes from the top, and I think there's a real need to set the tone, and it also helps to bolster reputation too. When the marketplace recognizes your company as one that supports, first of all, has a succession plan, I think that's key, and supports continuing education, then that automatically becomes a draw, a magnet towards attracting and keeping good.
I think that's very, very good advice. And I'd say that one of the reasons that people use for not developing succession plans or training programs is, not necessarily knowing where to start, and there's plenty of places to go and seek that help, and I think that's a very good point, Fiona, so well made. Got another interesting question here. How important is networking in person versus networking online for construction professionals? And I'll throw that out to Russell first.
I'd say it's equally as important. I mean, obviously, in the last few years, we've seen a growth in networking tools online, such as LinkedIn, even Facebook to some extent, although you could argue how much of a professional forum that is. But so it's important to have an online presence, I would suggest, and to keep that up to date and to keep it professional and above board. But there's definitely no replacement for the face-to-face networking, and VRCA is a great vehicle for that. As Fiona's mentioned, there's training, but there's also more social activities that people can get involved with through associations such as VRCA, and there's certainly no replacement for meeting people face-to-face and building those direct kind of personal relationships that you can't do online. And it also doesn't hurt just to make connections with people, and even as you meet those people, to arrange coffee meetings and whatnot, and try to get to know people. And one thing that we haven't mentioned that I think is very important to a lot of people who do manage to progress their careers is to see if there's someone who is perhaps not a manager that you directly report to, but someone that you can build a relationship with that is more senior than yourself, who has perhaps gained the level of experience that you want, and to try and develop a relationship where that person can act as a mentor to you. We see that a lot of the people who are successful in their careers, who manage to get to that executive level in their own, a large percentage of those people have had a mentor at some time in their career. So that's something to try and identify if there's someone that you can reach out to develop that sort of relationship.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Fiona, anything you'd add to that?
No, I completely agree with Russell's points. Ideally, you want to be face-to-face. It's more dynamic. You can build, I think, a better rapport. If I think about our under-40 network, our U40 network, of course they're online. They have a really high social media presence, but they also have monthly events for U40s because they want to come together. They want to have that human connection. And yes, they're having fun, but they're also working it. They're also trading ideas and asking questions of each other. So it's a really dynamic and important networking piece to be part of, I think, as well as, and I'm going to be shameless here, Jim, I apologize, but our upcoming Construction Leadership Forum in Whistler, as much as it's focused on training and education targeted towards the middle-tier managers in the industry, there's also some amount of time dedicated to networking. And because our under-40 network that helped us to develop the program has stressed the importance of networking in a human kind of way, you know, whether it's on a mountain bike or zip trekking or playing golf or whatever, it's fun, for sure, but there's also some important conversations happening while that networking is happening. So social media and online presence is important, but it cannot be replaced by the human interaction.
Yeah, I'd agree. You recruit people, you often recruit people you like, and you get to like people by meeting them face to face. I think that's a very good point. Okay, that's all the questions we've had so far, unless there's any late ones to come through. But so I just end by saying thank you very much again to everyone for dialing in. Thank you for VRCA for partnering with us on pulling the salary guide together. If you have any questions that you want to ask offline, or you want to get in touch with me, my email address is up there, jim.fearon@hays.com. And if you want to get a hold of any of the material that I've quoted throughout the presentation, please feel free to ask. Thank you very much for dialing in, everyone.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Russell. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.